This conference will now be recorded.
Well, thank you all for joining me very much. We have a lot of veterans actually here today, people that have been to a lot of these meetings today. And we're sitting here on the 18th of April, just after the Easter holiday. So I hope you all had a very nice Easter holiday. Even though I think most of us know each other, I'm still going to start with a round of introductions just for the record and in case some of us haven't been in a meeting with some of the other folks. And then after that, I'll open it up for questions and answers relative to the introductions. I know Patrick was already picking Paolo's brain a little bit. And then after that, I'll open it up for general conversation. And boy, with everything that's going on in the world, I'm sure we're not going to have any shortage of topics there. And maybe the second and the third will kind of blend right in. But we'll see. And I'll try to get everybody out of here somewhere between 45 and 55 minutes after the hour. Because again, I know we all have these meetings back to back. Um, but let's see, I'm just going to start in the order that I see people here on my list. And funny enough, the first one is Diane. And Diane, I know you've done this before, so if you want to take a minute or two, please, and give us your introduction.
Hi, certainly. Good afternoon, everyone. So, Diane Wingerner, I have a litany of businesses. I'm up to 3 LLCs currently, and they all have at least one brand or two beneath each one. But for the purpose of this group, I typically talk about grant writing. It is exciting, it's fun, and it's worthwhile. And I've been able to get quite a few grants for my clients, so that's good. Results, right? Everybody likes results. So my process, I put a lot of time and effort up front, which my clients appreciate. So I put about 7 hours into them before I ever ask them for a decision, for them to say yes or no, or maybe so. But I like doing the research and seeing what I can find for companies that are interested in grants. The space is larger for nonprofits. There's more grants available in the nonprofit space than there is in the for-profit space, but there are certainly thousands and thousands that are still available that I can take a look at. So I don't really turn anyone down for that opportunity to prove that I can help them. And like I said, so do a process with an hour intake session. So I totally understand who they serve, why they serve, what they do. And then, like I said, do 5 hours of research on their behalf and then follow up with a 1 hour meeting after I do the grant research to show them what I found. So then at that point, they decide if they want to work with me or not. So it's a thorough process. And then even once we flip the switch, there's 25 things I do kind of for them, with them, to make sure that we're prepped and ready to go. So I certainly do more than fill out a form. I'm not a grant form filler outer. There's way more strategy and thoughtfulness and being prepared. As I like to tell them, I put a pretty bow on their business and then deliver it to the funder so that we get a yes. So that's my process, and I love it.
Very, very good. And I'll just mention this, not to sidetrack us, but if hopefully these things are coming back, if any of you are ever involved with a trade show and you have questions or comments or need ideas, Diane's also your person there. All right, moving right along. Paolo, yes, if you could take a minute or two and introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paolo Agostinelli. I am the owner of Equitas Funding Group. We're based outside of just west of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we're a real estate investment firm. We basically buy residential, commercial real estate, renovate, rent. Um, like I said, both residential and commercial real estate. Basically, we take how we differentiate ourselves. We do that through a few different ways. One, with property sellers, property owners, and small business owners. We work with them directly. We take a very consultative approach to finding a solution or to structure a transaction that maximizes their benefit for the property they're looking to sell. We also work with private investors who want to invest in residential or commercial real estate. And we also work with community groups and municipalities. Again, taking a consultative approach, going to them and understanding, what their needs are, what their 5-year strategic plan is for for certain properties or certain parts of their municipality or community that they want to improve. And based on what it is that they need, we try to figure out what we can offer them. So not only myself representing Equitas Funding Group, but also as a member of the Pittsburgh Real Estate Investment Association, I lead our commercial real estate subgroup, basically a very large networking group of real estate investors, small business owners, property owners, landlords, individuals who need space for their business or what have you. So even if there's something that I can't directly help you with, I am always more than happy to make a referral for anyone who reaches out if it makes sense on both sides. So I love connecting people and would love to help facilitate whatever it is that any of us or anyone else listening to this needs help with. More than happy to help. So again, my name is Paolo Agostinelli, and I'm glad to be on this afternoon and appreciate everyone's time. Thanks, Hal.
Perfect. Thank you. And let's see, moving right along. Patrick, same thing. If you could take a minute or two, please, to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everybody. It's great to be back, and thank you, Sal, for being such a wonderful host. Hope you all had a good Easter. I'm in the health space, and it's about cellular health at a functional level. Essentially, what it's about is every second of every day, our cells are passing tremendous amounts of information throughout the body, and any breakdown in that signaling and communication, we cannot be fully healthy. Now, we're all familiar with everyday pillars of health: nutrition, hydration, sleep, exercise, spiritual well-being. However, science is now telling us that nothing happens in the body or any cell without being signaled. For example, we receive a signal when we're feeling hot or cold or tired or thirsty or hungry, or we injure ourselves. The bathroom call in the middle of the day or the one in the middle of the night. And this is influenced strongly by redox signaling molecules, which amplifies and clarifies the critical cellular signaling, and the differences making in most people's lives is absolutely astonishing, including my own. For many people, this is now the missing link for better health and vitality. It's independently validated. It's 100% non-toxic, enabling us to have a real advantage. The real difference here is that redox signaling introduces a higher level of health because it goes beyond nutrition, beyond ingredients, and impacts the body at a depth that no other supplement has ever come close to achieving. In other words, the better the communication is, as it was when we were very young, to the origin of the problem, the better the solution. So I would love to connect with people you know, because they deserve to know. What they do with the information is up to them, but they deserve to know. So who do you know? Who is interested in their health and believing that their health is their greatest wealth, and it's up to them to invest into it. It's also a business for those interested in an additional income stream, now in 33 countries. And my thanks to you for enabling me to share, to understand what you're doing, and the gift of your attention. My details are in the chat.
Oh, yes, thank you. Please don't forget to put your contact information in the chat, and I will try to remember that this system's a little bit different and I have to copy it over before I shut down so I don't lose it. The old system was very nice. It would automatically give you a file. All right. So, last but not least, from Indianapolis, Rhoda, if you could please take a minute or two and introduce yourself.
I've been sitting here developing questions for each of you that come up. And one of my questions for you, Sal, is why you chose this particular system, digital system of meeting. And so put that on the shelf for later.
Okay,
So,
you have it. I'll take a turn. Sometimes I even forget to introduce myself. I'll introduce myself and I'll answer that question.
good. Hello, everyone from Indianapolis, Indiana. My name is Rhoda Israelov, and for the past 14 years, I have changed what used to be a weekly column in the Indianapolis Business Journal into writing for someone else to promote my clients online through blog writing and through their web content. And now I am at a very interesting part of the business in that we have developed rapidly into a resource for agencies. And it's a very different exercise when we are writing under the direction of an agency versus when we're working directly with the client. So some of my clients have been with me literally for 14 to 14 years or 12 years. And so imagine writing a weekly topic for them for all that time and really get to know them versus when an agency gives us an assignment and says, these are the key words that you have to use, and this is what we want in the first paragraph, and this is the model that we want, and we have an SEO consultant who's going to be over you. So it's an entirely different kind of a business. And I'm in the process of helping my writers adjust to that so they can do both things well and feel satisfied with the work. So part of my success has been that the writers have stayed with me for all this time. So it's not like recruiting someone from Fiverr. Imagine someone that's been together with you for 10 to 14 years and has learned the way that you trust each other and do business together. So it's been kind of a personnel success as well as a business success that brings me great satisfaction. Sometimes we get a cause that itself is very, very inspiring. And right now we have a new client, I think I may have mentioned, called Medigo. And Medigo is a brand new firm founded by a set of physicians and technologists who created its tracking technology for organs that are being taken from one hospital where the donor patient is to another hospital, which may be very far away or very near where the recipient patient is, and how to track that and keep the organs safe. Part of it is drone technology, part of it is electronics, part of it is phone technology. It's just a very, very fascinating thing to read about all the successes and to learn how this translates into human terms. So this is the great satisfaction of Say It For You is learning something new just about every day.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Well, I will introduce myself because, like I said, sometimes I forget to do that. Um, so I'm Sal Acosta. I am a business broker. I help people buy and sell businesses. The interesting thing that has changed with the coronavirus is that before coronavirus, I would work with the businesses that were within a 2 hour driving radius around here. And now, through the magic of the internet and video chat, I'm actually working with people all over the US. Um, I actually want to take part of my 2 minutes to show you guys something because I see behind Patrick that there's a music stand, and I think Patrick maybe plays music. And this is one that can apply to anybody in the US or anywhere, anybody in the world. It's a young lady, literally 20 years old, that's a serial entrepreneur, and she developed a business. She's gotten what we call some traction, which basically means she's already getting sales, but basically wants to sell it to devote her time to other things that I won't go into, even though they're public and they're great ideas. I mean, this is just a person that has one idea after the other. So she's selling this business for $10,000, if you can imagine that. And I just want to show it here real quick in my 2 minutes. So this, and hopefully you guys can see it there, is a little device that she 3D prints. It's got some instructions in the back, and basically is if you want to play the violin and you have some type of disability that you're not able to bend your fingers, or you're a very young person just trying to learn the violin, basically what you do is, if you can imagine, this is the bow of the violin, right? You basically slide it in just like that, and you put your fingers through there. Obviously, this one's too small for me. But long story short, you can play the violin without bending your fingers. Um, she sells it on her
Oh,
website for $25. It costs her $5 to make it. The best part is she's subcontracted out the whole process. So literally anybody in the world can buy this business, start marketing this device, and continue to. I mean, you can change the price obviously, but continue to sell it. Let's say for $25. Pay $5 for the subcontractor. They 3D print it. They put it on here. They tie it up. Instructions are on the back, and they ship it back out. So anyway, just wanted to mention that because that's a really cool, really profitable business. She went to the Pennsylvania Music Educators Conference. I think it was not this weekend, last weekend, set up a booth, sold a bunch of these little devices. And so that's anyway, it's as an example of a business that can be run from anywhere and sell products to anywhere again through the magic of the internet. Um, Rhoda, to answer your question, maybe not a great answer, but this is the answer, and it's got two parts. One part is that I've been a fan of video chat forever since like the mid '90s, and back in the mid '90s, GoToMeeting was originally adopted by a lot of the big companies that wanted to push video chat because Zoom wasn't around. So I'm talking about when I worked for Hewlett Packard and Motorola and all those guys. Frankly, and I think maybe this is what you're alluding to, GoToMeeting has fallen a little bit behind Zoom. Zoom has kind of become the standard. Um, but if nothing else, for laziness and inertia, and hopefully they're not monitoring this video, but for laziness and inertia, I've just kind of stayed with GoToMeeting instead of transitioning over to Zoom. Um, but I will say this, they do have one nice thing compared to Zoom. I believe this is still true. You can use it on any platform. You can use it on a tablet, on a cell phone, on a laptop, on a desktop. I think Zoom is a little more restricted that way. So those are your answers. Maybe not the best, but certainly the answers.
Okay.
Um, any questions from anybody to anybody? Rhoda, I think you had more questions for other people.
Especially for Paolo. In Indianapolis, a group of residents, a giant group of residents, got together and they are filing a lawsuit against basically a giant group of landlords, particularly for apartment complexes who are simply not doing the day-to-day maintenance. In other words, the places are leaking or whatever is going wrong with them. And there's a lot of press about remote landlording in general. And so, how does that play into what you do and what you hear about and so on?
So I would say, well, first of all, regarding the specific
Yeah, not
instances in
the
Indianapolis you're
specific
talking
thing,
about, I'm not gonna
right? But just
comment on that or anything specific.
investing in rental property, as a remote landlord. How
So
does
to
that
me,
work?
okay, so I would argue remote or not, your processes are going to be your most important aspect of managing it. So if you're not, I mean, if you're talking about an apartment complex, most investors are not going, after a certain threshold, most investors are not going to manage their own property. They're going to hire a professional firm to do so.
Yeah,
So remote or not, I mean, selection obviously is important in terms of vetting any, professional property management firm or any other firm or professional product or service that you're going to hire, especially to represent you as an owner and to manage the property. So to me, it's not, that part of it is not a function of remote or not. Whether I own a property in downtown Pittsburgh, 13 miles away from where I'm sitting right now, or if I had an apartment complex that I owned in Indianapolis. Now, the big part about that selection is going to be relationships and knowing the area and knowing who those individuals are that you do want to partner and align with. With regards to being remote, not just by virtue of being remote is the issue in my mind. It's having the relationships and being able to properly vet who you are going to hire to take care of a significant asset, not only from the property owner, because that's a significant asset, but also being able to trust and care someone to manage a property that is a that is acting as you're providing a housing service, which is one of the most core, one of the most that's a huge responsibility. So on both ends, protecting a person's investment, but also doing a good job for the sake that people are, you're providing a service, you're a housing provider, and you need to provide that up to the best standards possible. So again, I would say it's more of a function of relationships, vetting who you're going to hire to manage, whether they're 5 mile, whether they're 10 miles away or 300 miles away, and being able to, actively keep track of what's going on. You still need to be active. You still need to know what's going on. So, so that, if that's the case, that's very that's no one wants that. No responsible business owner, or investor, or property owner, or landlord, I'd rather use the word housing provider. Um, so yeah, that's all I'll say about that. But
That's a really interesting question, Rhoda, and thank you, Paolo. So we're talking about trust here. It's you're trusting the person that's going to manage the property for you. But how do you feel good about, or how can we have a verifiable trust? We know you're doing it, but how can I verify that you're doing it correctly?
results, referrals, talking to other clients, um, inspecting properties that the property manager currently manages. Um, I mean, there's a lot of due diligence there, similar to the trust of, I'm looking at Sal's picture here on the screen, similar to buying a business. How do I trust that the business, a business that Sal represents, is accurately, is accurately portraying, what the finances are, and what the environment is, and what the culture of the organization is, and how it's being run, and what are the processes, and are they being followed, and you can kind of tell. I mean, you can kind of tell even when someone hands over, you look at something might look odd on expenses, like why are they spending so much on this, and how could, I don't know, but it's for whatever the specific case is, you do have to develop best practices of evaluating whether it's buying a business, hiring a property manager, or even selecting a property to buy. Even when you're looking to buy a home to live in, a property to invest in, there are definitely best practices for each of those. No one needs to be an expert in all that, and that's where your network comes into play, and that's where so partially, the big part of trust. I mean, I referred Sal to a family member, and I'm not even sure how it turned out, who is contemplating selling their business. I felt good about that because there's just by conversations with Sal, and how did I trust Sal? Why do I trust Sal? I mean, I initially reached out to Sal, for example, because I was talking to a lot of small business owners who not only wanted to sell their real estate, but also wanted to sell their business. And fully acknowledging what I am and not capable of, I wanted to be able to refer my clients to some, and not even get anything out of it, just by virtue of being able to provide a comprehensive solution to help whoever it was that I was trying to help. And that's why I reached out to Sal. I was looking for someone that I could trust to refer my clients to, again, and I wouldn't even get anything from it. It doesn't help me. It helps my client. If I can't help them, I want to step out of the way and introduce them to someone who can. So how does that trust develop? Interactions, time, referrals, making sure that actions match a person's words. I think, especially in the city of Pittsburgh and in Western Pennsylvania, I think instead of the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, there's the 3 degrees of anyone who. I mean, it's a small town. I mean, you make one small big city or big little city, whichever way you want to look at it. But you have to do the right thing all the time. If not, people are going to know.
That's really good. You know, when they say you don't know what anybody is like or any organization is like until you have a problem. That's
Sure.
when you discover what they're really like.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget
Yeah.
too, Patrick. I mean, and I was seeing this the other day just because I stumbled upon it. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but like almost any other business, there's reviews online about property managers and specific buildings and things like that. And frankly, I've become a little bit. I don't trust those reviews as much as I did years ago because I think people are playing a little bit of fun and games with it. But still, at least on a relative basis, and also, by the way, is because people write a review when they complain. Typically, when things go great, they just
Right.
go about their
Yeah.
business and they don't write a review. But having said all that, if one has 10 negative reviews and one has one negative review, I'll take my chances with the guy that has one negative review versus the guy that has 10.
And I'll say a couple things about that if I could, very, very quickly. One, when I look at even negative reviews, I'm looking to see if there's a common thread, if they're legitimate, and if there's a common thread. Sometimes people will write a negative review, and it'll be something that either, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be aligned with what was really going on. With that said, I mean, I would definitely look at for any consumer business. So whether it's someone that you're looking to do business with, or even if you're looking to buy a product, or if you're trying to find an auto repair person to fix your car, and that's check with the Better Business Bureau. Now, the Better Business Bureau gives you a positive rating, gives the business a positive rating. They can get 10 complaints, but just as long as they respond to the complaint, whether it's whether they actually address the issue or not, just by virtue of responding, they get a positive review. So you can look. But don't look at the review. I would say actually look at the complaints filed and look at the description there. Also, State Attorney General's office, they maintain complaints as well. If something escalated to that level, it's going to be on file. So there are publicly available sources, and I say this not even just as to fellow business owners, but just to consumers. Anytime I hear someone they're looking for a certain landscaping company or looking for someone to hire a deck, check the Better Business Bureau. Don't look at the rating. Tangibly look at the complaints, if there's and see if there's a thread there, and then also check with the state attorney generals. You can also look at local magistrate docket infos for other types of lawsuits, civil lawsuits. In the state of Pennsylvania, I think if you Google USJ magistrate, I think it'll give you a website that you can check magisterial and common pleas court filings. So a lot of background you could do on individuals and or businesses or anything along those lines. So.
Yeah. And by the way, going to maybe even easier, something that Paolo said, if there's a building and you're wondering about how good the property manager is, I can almost guarantee you that asking around, you'll be introduced to somebody that lives at that building, whether it's a friend of a friend or a friend of your uncle or whatever the case may be. And then you just ask them, hey, do you like your property manager? Is he doing a good job? And then they'll happily tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Neighbors who live close to the property, tenants, current tenants, former tenants, other property managers. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, you
Well,
can do.
Rhoda, any more questions for Paolo or anybody else?
No, but thank you so much, Paula. That was really good answer. But do you use some of the same processes that Diane uses to prepare people to ask for a grant when you're preparing them to get their business ready to sell?
Are you asking me? Well, so when I'm preparing somebody to sell their business, I've actually got a checklist of documents that they should provide, and I've got a questionnaire that I go through um, for the purposes of me understanding the business. My goal is always to answer 80% of the questions from a potential buyer before I, turn them over to the seller to ask maybe the 20% of the questions that are beyond my pay grade. So, to answer your question, put it as simply as I can is there's a list of documents that I ask them for, things like leases, financial statements, tax returns, so on and so forth. That gives me a starting point. And then again, I've got about a 5-page questionnaire that, and I emphasize, I go through that with them. Okay. It's not, I give them the questionnaire and I say, hey, here you go. Here's 5 pages of question. Answer this, and we'll get you ready to sell your business. It's more almost a checklist for me to have a guided conversation with them to again help me understand their businesses, their business, their strong points, their weak points, maybe things we need to fix if some things can be fixed easily. And depending on the answer, I'll dive a little deeper or we'll move into the next question. So that's kind of my process.
Mhm.
I think that's marvelous because you enable them to get a better understanding of the process, and then they feel better. The trust builds up. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so, and that's just the way it is. For some people, this is the first time they're ever selling a business, right? Cars, we may buy a couple in our lifetime. Supposedly people move houses every 7 years. I don't know how true that statistic is, but okay, fine. But businesses, typically you buy or sell once in your lifetime. So people typically don't have a lot of experience in that transaction. Plus the fact that there's no single sort of cookie cutter process, and it changes a little bit depending on the size of the business and the type of business. So that's all what makes it, frankly, it's some, all these transactions are more custom than you would
Yeah,
expect, maybe as just looking at it as an outsider.
yeah.
All right, Diane, questions for anybody or comments or anything?
Well, of course, I'm going to put my Shark Tank hat on. So the gal with the little musical apparatus, is that patent?
Yes, it is. Actually, it
Well, good
is,
for
and
her.
and and it's so funny
Wow.
that you say that because I'll just give you this little bit of background on it. This lady, like I said, who's going to school at Penn State, by the way,
Yeah.
um, was actually sitting watching Shark Tank with her dad, and she was already a serial entrepreneur. She was already doing things, and by the way, Penn State has a thing called the launch box, LAUNCH, which is to support innovators, entrepreneurs within the Penn State system. So they've helped her a
Nice.
lot, including, by the way, having actual lawyers that they subcontract write her patents. So all that is very well done. And she's won pitch competitions too, by the way, because they sponsor pitch competitions and she's won pitch competitions. But long story short, she's sitting there watching Shark Tank with her dad, and she says, hey, you know what? I'm going to come up with an idea and I'm going to be on Shark Tank. Unfortunately, her dad was not very supportive. And he said, oh, no, don't do that. That's a waste of time. You won't make any money, blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, for a 20-year-old lady, young person, whatever, this became a challenge. And so this is how
Yep.
this came about, was watching Shark Tank and getting challenged by her dad. And so now my job is to close it out and get her some money and put it into new hands.
Excellent. Well,
Wow.
good for her. Good for her.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's patents on it. And and sales.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Great.
And look, I don't. People's information isn't in the chat. I'm only looking at my information, but people are shy. I think they're in a witness protection program. They don't want to put their.
Okay, wait a minute. Then I will tell you guys what, which I always forget to do that too. I will put mine in, even though you guys all get it in every single email that I send out. But, they say you have to lead by example. So hold on a second.
I was talking too much. That was my excuse. So
Listen, look, it's great listening to you.
trying to be
Paolo,
concise.
Yeah, wow.
All right, well, listen, guys, I'm going to close it out with one sort of general question for whoever wants to take the ball and run with this. Because we're getting here to 41 minutes after the hour on my computer. So, again, I want to get people out of here between 45 and 55 minutes after the hour. But we all deal with small businesses one way or the other. We are all small business owners one way or the other. When you look at, I'm going to say, the rest of this year, what do you think is the biggest challenge for small business? And I'll throw out a couple of ideas, but it doesn't even have to be these. But I mean, these are the ones that are on CNBC all the time, right? So when you look at the challenges for small business for the rest of the year, do you think the biggest one is inflation? Do you think the biggest one is supply chain? Do you think the biggest one is interest rates? Do you think the biggest one, and this is a horrible one, but because it's a human catastrophe, but I'll approach it from a business perspective, everything that's going on in Ukraine, including the possible use of nuclear weapons, which stands everybody's hair on end. Which of all those is the biggest challenge for the rest of the year, or something else?
I think there's a major consideration, and it includes those as well. It is confidence. Where is people's confidence in doing, shall we say, normal things? Because I think what's creeping into the equation of living now is a fear of, will there be enough food? Will there be enough energy? Will there be, what am I going to do? How do I make provision for the future? Do you know what I mean? Because the standard pillars of doing business are being challenged. Energy, cost of energy, deliveries, as you said, supply chain, stuff like that.
So
Confidence.
a little bit of, so if I understand what you're saying is, the biggest challenge is, and I'm going to phrase it in two ways. So one is psychology, but maybe negative psychology becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. If everybody gets worried, if people don't spend money, buy new houses, new cars, new washing machines, new whatever, then that in itself starts to unwind the economy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You see, when inflation increases, like for instance in Europe, we have VAT charges, value added tax, and most products is 23%. But with inflation, the cost of the product is going up. But what people are not talking about is the cost of the VAT is going up. So there are greater returns to the government. But you don't often read that. So they're making more money, but it reaches a balancing where it's not fulfilling. As they say, it's all right up to a point. But well, it's not all right, but it's
Yeah,
perceived as
no,
okay.
and then there comes a point in time where people stop spending money, and then it's the opposite. Then the government
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
zero money because people are just not buying.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. Well, anybody else want to take a crack at what they see the biggest challenge for the rest of the year for small business?
Y'all throw one out. Is staffing, employees.
I was gonna
I've
say,
seen businesses that are closed X number of days a week because they don't have the staff, to physically run a brick and mortar operation. I mean, it's more obviously for brick and mortars. So one of my businesses, we're trying to attack that issue. So that's one that's on the top of my mind right now is staffing and finding reliable people. And part of it's the system itself. Companies have become lazy. So I was a recruiting and training manager in my life, and I've hired, 1,900 people along Life's Highway. So, but I actually like recruited people. I mean, like really recruited them. Watched for talent, went into retail stores, saw people that were treating customers the right way. So I recruited them and was always able to fulfill my needs. But, now it's like go to a QR code, go to a website. I mean, the personal interaction has been taken out of the equation, until like later on in the interview process. And to me, it's kind of like a little too little, too late. Start with that interaction and getting to know people and what their values are on the front end. So anyway, I could talk an hour on this subject, but I think people is certainly an issue, for
I
small
agree.
business owners and how to compete and get top talent. So it's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. I think I've said this before in these meetings. A while back, I was talking to a business owner of a breakfast place. He had several locations. If I remember correctly, he had four different locations. And he was open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for breakfast and I think lunch. But he told me before the coronavirus, and I have enough demand that not only could I be open all 7 days, I could be open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because even though we're a breakfast place, we still have some stuff that dinner menu and whatever. So you think about it, for from being open breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 7 days, which is 21, to being open for breakfast and lunch over Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days. I mean, he's leaving a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money on the table. It's just he can't find the people. And in his particular case, he's lucky, and I'll use my air quotes here, because he owns his real estate. So he's not under the pressure of, hey, I'm only working 4 days part time, but I still have to pay my entire rent to the landlord. I mean, he is his own landlord. So in his case, it's just income that doesn't come in, but he doesn't have to pay it back out to our landlord. So he's again lucky in air quotes that way. But yeah, it's incredible.
Yep.
In Ireland, we have government support schemes that is 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 resulting in the same kind of problem, as you said, Diane. Staff are more difficult to get, but those are ending at the end of this month. So things should change, hopefully, for the better. You know.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, guys, listen, let's do something. It's 48 minutes after the hour. Want to give everybody a chance to take a break before your next meeting. We will do this again in exactly 2 weeks. Oh, don't forget, very important. On the session for May 18th, we're going to have a guest speaker, which is David Dorrier. And he was already our guest speaker, maybe some of you remember, about a year ago. So excellent guest speaker. He will be talking about how to paint a picture with words because he helps people make presentations, make sales pitches, present ideas, things like that. So if you want to learn how to paint a picture with words, make sure you attend our session on May the 18th with
No, you mean May 16th.
Okay, well, there you go. Thank you. May 16th. Actually, here, I'll tell you what. Hold on, hold on. I will double check, but I'm sure you're right.
Rhoda is
May
painting a real picture there.
That's
And
See,
Rhoda's got
this is
all
the
these words
benefit
anyway.
of having people that are veterans. They know everything better than I do. So
no,
Rhoda
I'm
knows that it's
so
exactly 4 weeks from now. So May the 16th. I will stand corrected. Thank you very much.
I'm not good at math. What it is that I am so old that I still keep a paper notebook with my appointments. So I'm looking at the calendar book and I can see that it's
All
Yeah.
right, guys. So listen, May 16th, David Dorrier, paint a picture with words. If you want to see his last presentation, I'm sure it's on the YouTube channel somewhere from about a year ago. And if not, just come to the 16th and and we'll engage with him. And then besides that, I'll see y'all, hopefully all of you in 2 weeks from today. And thank you all for joining me on this Monday after Easter, and have a wonderful time. And I'll see you guys all in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, in a
Okay,
couple
Thanks,
weeks.
everyone.
thanks everybody. Great to meet you.
Bye-bye.